Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Emily Quarles-Maurer, and I would like to welcome you all to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Pottstown. This morning, we once again carve out sacred spaces in our homes to join in our virtual sanctuary. We'd like to send a shout out to Rick Dusky. Thank you for being our head Zoomer today. For over 50 years, the UUFP has been a liberal religious voice in the Pottstown area. As UUs, we believe that reason and wonder can coexist, that we can honor the teachings of those who have gone before, even as we explore our way into the future, and that no one is outside the circle of justice and compassion. In this time more than ever, we embody the words of Kenneth L. Patton, "We arrive out of many singular rooms." We gather here this Sunday morning, still within our singular rooms, reaching out across space, with our hearts connecting, even though our hands can't touch. We gather not because we share a creed, but because we share a promise to support one another on our spiritual journeys. Our services are different, but the loving kindness we offer one another in this community remains the same. So whoever you are, wherever you are, whomever you love, we are glad to have you with us today. We are especially glad this morning to have Reverend Payson with us. Reverend Aaron Payson is minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Worcester, Massachusetts, where he served for the past 21 years. Aaron is delighted to be able to return to visit Pottstown, albeit remotely this year, and as has been the tradition for many years when he returned to the region to visit family on this holiday weekend. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Reverend Payson.
It is my honor.
And if anyone has any announcements, this would be the time to share them. Okay, it's looking like there are no announcements for this morning, so I will turn the service over to Reverend Payson.
Thank you so much. We begin this morning with our prelude. Our chalice lighting this morning are words by my friend and colleague, Robin Gray. Day breaks on our gratitude for family and friends, for the freedom to find our own truth, for the company of those who gather here, and the promises we offer one another. Let the light of day bring the grace of faith into our lives. Our opening words are those of Andre Moll. As we gather together, may we remember when you share with me what is important to you, that is where listening begins. And when I show you that I hear you, when I say that your life matters, that is where compassion begins. When I open the door to greet you, that is where hospitality begins. When I venture out to bring you to shelter, that is where love begins. When I risk my comfort to ease your suffering, when I act against hatred, violence, and injustice, that is where courage begins. When we experience the full presence of each other, because of our shared humanity, because of our differences, that is where holy gratitude begins. May this space be a table that is not complete until all are welcome. May this table be a space of beauty where together we create a series of miracles, and where all that we share is sacred. May it be so. I'm going to invite us to mute, or to mute all if we can, for our opening hymn. Invite you to sing as loudly as you desire in your place of viewing of this service. Come, ye thankful people, come.
I'm going to give you more than crop.
Our reading this morning are words by Anne Sexton. There is joy in all. In the hair I brush each morning, in the cannon towel newly washed that I rub my body with each morning, in the chapel of eggs I cook each morning, in the outcry from the kettle that heats my coffee each morning, in the spoon and the chair that cry, "Hello there, Anne," each morning, in the Godhead of the table that I set my silver plate cup upon each morning. All this is God. Right here in my pea greenhouse each morning, and I mean, though often forget, to give thanks, to faint down by the kitchen table in a prayer of rejoicing, as the holy birds at the kitchen window peck into their marriage of seeds. So while I think of it, let me paint a thank you on my palm for this God, this laughter of the morning, lest it go unspoken. The joy that isn't shared, I've heard, dies young. I'm going to stop sharing a moment and invite us into that time when we're given pause to consider what is deepest in our hearts or most profoundly on our minds, or in the work of our hands in the days that have transpired or in the prospect of days to come. Joys and sorrows which touch us deeply and are given another measure of meaning because of our capacity to share them in the midst of a company that claims us as a co-journeyer. So I invite those of you who have joys or sorrows this morning to unmute and in turn to take the opportunity to share with those on our Zoom. Please remember that we are recording this service for the church archive and to be shared with those who aren't able to be with us this morning. Are there joys or sorrows to be shared this day?
We have a joy. Today is RJ's birthday, so we want to have everybody wish RJ a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, RJ.
Happy birthday, RJ.
Happy birthday, RJ.
Are there other joys or sorrows this morning?
I have two joys. The first joy is the cluster, the UU cluster workshop, all day workshop that I went to, I think last Saturday, and it was really marvelous. And the key part of it was a virtual choir, which I was able to be part of. I recorded my part of the song and sent it to somebody who belongs to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Newark, who took the hard, arduous task, time-consuming task of taking the 12 videos that she got from 12 individual people and putting them together into a single video. And it was just the results were just marvelous. And they played that during the cluster. So that was joy number one. Joy number two, and this may be very small, but I don't know how many of you have been known that I have been dealing with a shoulder issue for 18 months. And about a month ago, after I started PT and did it too hard, and it got really bad, and then I couldn't move my shoulder for 6 days. So it's been getting it's been getting better and worse and better and worse. But last night was the first time in a year I'd been able to sleep on that side, which is my natural side to sleep on. I had to teach myself to sleep on the other side because the pain was so bad when I slept on that side. And last night I woke up this morning and there was only a little bit of pain on that side. So that's a great joy for me. So that's my joy. Oh, I do have a sorrow. My nephew got into a terrible car accident, crashed up his car, and was accused of drunk driving under the influence. So we'll have to deal with that. But that's a sorrow. So please pray for him.
Thank you so much, CJ. Mary.
Yeah, I'm just hoping. I did light the chalice while you were having the chalice lighting. So when you see me, there it is over my shoulder. I finally got this figured out after months of doing this. And because we are kind of a little wrong way at church service, I do have a lighted stained glass back here that was part of it was done by my dad, and part was after he died, it was finished up by a friend. But my joy was I spent a lovely Thanksgiving, socially distanced outdoor Thanksgiving at John and Kay's. And it was absolutely awesome, and didn't get cold till the fire went out. And I guess since it's RJ's birthday today, it's mine tomorrow. So we're strength in Sagittarius, shall we say. And my nephew's is day after tomorrow. No, it's the 2nd. So a little bit of a cluster here.
There you go.
And I turned 60 last Sunday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
I will share with you this. It's last we were together, my mother-in-law, who was the sole surviving parent of my wife, died not of COVID, but during the first phase of our response to COVID, following a fall in her house, died the next day. My brother-in-law and his wife are purchasing the family house. So we intend to continue to try to travel to the area at least once a year in order to be able to spend time with Kristen's brother and sister-in-law. My brother, CJ, also was in a vehicle accident about 4 days ago and broke about 6 ribs and ended up in the hospital for a couple of days and has returned home. It is a season of that kind of thing, I guess, and it doesn't, given all the stresses and strains that we're under, it just adds a little more. So I offer my prayers for healing from my brother as well. Any other joys or sorrows this morning? Kay.
I've taken advantage of the beautiful weather we've had lately for several hikes in Ridley Creek State Park next door. It's a pleasure to be able to go there.
That's extraordinary, Dave. Thank you so much.
I have a joy in that we spent most of the day yesterday climbing on rocks at St. Peter's Village with our grandson, who is 6. And he is quite the rock climber. And it was just so great. I just remember the days that when our girls were young and we climbed around on the rocks, and he really did a great job. It was a couple hair-raising large rocks and water and things like that, but it was the greatest weather, and what a wonderful day.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Anyone else? Let us be in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Spirit of life, source of great and abiding love. We give thanks this day for our time together to connect and deepen our relationships with each other and to renew our bond with all that is. Mindful this day of birthdays and anniversaries and the gratitude we have for those in our lives that celebrate these milestones. And we come with healing thoughts in our hearts for those who have been injured or infirmed, or those that we've lost. Mindful that life is a gift and that immortality is but a dynamic of remembering, so that we too might carry forward the lessons of those that have gone before and to take up the challenge of their work amidst our own. Grateful too this morning for returning health and wholeness, and so grateful for good sunny days when we might experience nature as it turns to another season and reminds us of the vibrancy of life itself as we watch our young ones ascend rocky crevices and deal with our own anxiety as they go higher, and the thrill of watching them do so. Help us keep these moments in our hearts in the days to come when life turns cold and the darkness looms large, so that we might continue to foster that light within ourselves that remembers what it is to be and to do in this world in good and meaningful ways, that life does not tarry backward, but always moves toward the future. We would ask that we be granted the opportunity to take one more step. For all this and for all that which has gone unsaid this morning, but is no less real, right, true, and good, we give great thanks this day. Amen. And blessed be. For musical meditation this morning, Psalm 23 by Bobby McFerrin, sung by members of the congregation that I serve and the music director of our congregation, Matthew Johnson.
Beside the still waters, There is nothing that can shake me. She has said she won't forsake me. I'm with her. She sets a table before me. In the presence of my foes. She anoints my head with oil, and surely goodness and kindness will follow me all the days of my life, and I will live in their house forever and ever. Glory be to our Mother and Daughter and to the Holy Ghost, as it was in the beginning, is now and ever shall be, world without
Pardon me while I scroll. There we go. So I had just finished blowing leaves from my front yard into the street. It became a challenge and an art form to create a pile of leaves at the curb as the wind blows leaves hither and yon. Atop the pile, I placed a few branches that had fallen from a windstorm a few weeks ago, and then spied the pumpkins that adorned the front steps of our house for Halloween. One had clearly been transformed into a residence for some small creature who had more passion for pumpkin seeds than I, and was now in the throes of decay. I carefully lifted it from the pile of lifted it to the pile of leaves as it dripped down the sidewalk. The other was as sound and solid as the day that it was placed on that step. It too went to the pile of leaves, as I thought it a shorter distance to there than the compost pile in the back of the house. And there I sat on the front steps, soaking in the afternoon sun and breeze, when a neighbor and his daughter happened down the street on their bicycles. The girl's pink bicycle sparkling as she pedaled. I remembered a moment from my past when I declared very fervently that I would never buy anything that pink, only to be reminded of that declaration a year or two later when I was putting together my daughter's first bicycle. That's about as long as any dad declaration lasts, is in the presence and joy of that kind of pinkness. Up the street they went, and around the circle at the end, the bend in our road, and back and forth. My neighbor slowed, and we exchanged pleasantries Stopping for a moment to talk about the current state of things, his child was impatient to continue their sojourn until she spied the pumpkins in the pile. Amused by the one that had almost fully collapsed, she giggled and then stared at the other for a moment in wonder. I hazarded, "Would you like to have that pumpkin?" She looked at her dad and then at me and nodded shyly. "What do you think?" asked her dad. "We could make it into a turkey with feathers and a neck and a beak," he pondered. "Excellent idea," I exclaimed. She smiled as the vision of that creature began to come together in her imagination, and then began to imagine how she would get it home on her bike, deciding finally to come back for it by hand when they had finished their afternoon exercise. I didn't stay to see who carried the gourd, but I know it made its way to become the turkey that had been imagined earlier. Rescued from its immediate fate as compost somewhere in the city, that pumpkin became a perfect example of the application of appreciation that I've been pondering for weeks. The ability to find worth in something and transform what might have been trashed for lack of energy and imagination into an opportunity to celebrate the season now that it's brilliance, now that that is brilliance in the making. And I think this is the challenge of the holidays this year. Amidst all the disappointment and grief that accompany our experience of this pandemic and the warnings that we not travel or engage in larger celebrations with family and friends that are such the hallmark of the holidays, the application of appreciation will take some imagination on our part to turn what could be, for lack of energy and imagination, a holiday many think would just as soon let pass so that we may get this year done and over with. But there are turkeys to be made from the pumpkins we discard. And Thanksgiving is not something to be discarded simply because we can't do it the way we've always done. And for that matter, neither is Christmas. Here is where the words of well-known theologian Walter Brueggemann seem most fitting to me as he writes about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a contradiction of the values of the market economy that imagines we are self-made and can be self-sufficient. When we give thanks, we commit an act of defiance against the seductions of our society. We may sing all kinds of patriotic songs and feast to satiation on Thanksgiving Day. Beyond all of that is our acknowledgement that life is a gift that evokes a response. We are never self-starters. The drive for self-sufficiency is an unnecessary and futile idolatry. For me, the very act of Thanksgiving in this moment in our life as families, as communities, and as a country is a testament to our ability to rise above the lethargy of our prolonged period of personal isolation. And the fact that we use our creativity to maintain our connections, now mediated by technology such as that which we used this morning, is an act of defiance against the propensity of many to simply give up on our efforts to serve the common good. Recently, I've come across a number of examples of those who rail against the impassioned pleas of healthcare workers and local and state and federal officials who continue to implore constituents to abide by the measures set forth to promote our health and well-being, as well as that of our neighbors and friends. More than once, I have heard the cry, "I believe in liberty," that shouted by at least one pastor from a pulpit, railing against a public mandate to wear face coverings. But I'm reminded that liberty is only one value associated with two others as they are reflected in the founding documents of our nation. Without the requisite life, liberty is useless and cannot achieve the third value, the pursuit of happiness. That is the goal of liberty itself, is it not? Liberty is not self-sufficiency. Liberty is often claimed as self-sufficiency in the extreme. If thanksgiving means anything, it is that we would pause to consider that our lives are a gift from the source of creation itself and generations of those whose living made our lives possible. And as we have learned over the years, liberty is not something that has been honored or recognized equitably across generations. To truly appreciate liberty, we must also acknowledge the contexts in which liberty thrives. In the context that we read in the Declaration of Independence, liberty fundamentally refers to a state of being free from arbitrary, despotic, and autocratic rule or control. We as a nation are a product of the cry for liberty in order that we might be free to craft a life of meaning that is unencumbered by political despotism. But liberty also requires a social contract, a willingness to take as seriously others' liberty. If by our actions we threaten the liberty of others, we become despotic. And as I said before, life is a prerequisite of liberty and its attendant value, the pursuit of happiness. To understand this, Walter Brueggemann again offers a prayer that was popular a few years ago when he wrote, "We are strange conundrums of faithfulness and fickleness. We cleave to you in all the ways that we are able. We count on you and intend our lives to be lived for you. And then we find ourselves among people who are always seeking elsewhere and otherwise. So we give thanks that you are the God who yearns to wait for us, and that our connection to you is always from your side, and that it is because of your goodness that neither life nor death, nor angels, nor principalities, nor heights, nor depths, nor anything in creation can separate us from you. We give you thanks for your faithfulness, so much more durable than ours." His prayer, written from a clearly Christian perspective, I want to suggest that in our faith tradition, that seeing the divine in the eyes of everyone, that the prayer with a few linguistic changes might well reflect our yearning in this moment to be with those we love. And as a measure of our faith in action, to be in the presence of the divine when we commune with those we love. Hear these words again. We are strange conundrums of faith and faithfulness and fickleness. We cleave to our friends and family in all the ways that we are able. We count on them and intend our lives to be lived with them. And then we find ourselves among your people who are always seeking elsewhere and otherwise. So we give thanks that you are the ones who yearn and wait for us, and that our connections to you are strong. And that it is because of the strength of our love for each other that neither life nor death, nor angels, nor principalities, nor heights, nor depths, nor anything in creation can separate us from each other. We give thanks for your faithfulness and friendship. May ours be as durable as yours. Nothing can ultimately separate us from each other. Here is the truest testament of our faith. In this moment when we feel most separate, the application of appreciation for this truism takes an effort we hitherto have not had to apply as diligently. It takes creativity, patience, fortitude, and vision. Another pumpkin turkey, if you will. And as we enter the season of Advent, which begins today, I'm reminded that one of the foremost lessons of this season of anticipation is fear not. Fear not. Coming as it does most often from the mouths of angels. Such admonition greets the primary reaction we humans have to the shock of sudden change and newness. We arrive at this season only to be reminded that this experience is as ancient as our species, and that the call to love begins with a reminder that responding out of fear separates us from the possibility of new or renewed living if we heed the call to love. Such a call awakens us to those moments that have too often gone unrealized as holy opportunities for thanksgiving. And Sexton's words heard earlier this service bear repeating here. Remember, there is joy in all. In the hair I brush each morning, in the cannon towel newly washed that I rub my body with each morning, in the chapel of eggs I cook each morning, in the outcry from the kettle that heats my coffee each morning, in the spoon and the chair that cry, hello there, Anne, each morning, in the Godhead of the table that I set my silver plate cup upon each morning. All this is God, right here in my pea green house each morning, and I mean, though often forget to give thanks, to faint down by the kitchen table in a prayer of rejoicing as the holy birds at the kitchen window peck into their marriage of seeds. So while I think of it, while we think of it, let us paint a thank you on the palm for this God, this laughter of the morning, lest it go unspoken. The joy that isn't shared, I've heard, dies young. Beloved, let not sorrow, anxiety, or grief separate you from the love that is available every moment we are awake to this gift of life. The application of appreciation is the art of recognizing wherein our true liberty lies, and the creation of a shared life and happiness that is the product of the well-being of all people and all that we share with creation itself. Amen. And blessed be. As we continue to be muted, I invite you to respond in your own place of viewing with the words that are in bold here. These are the words of our Universalist ancestor, Max Kutz. Let us give thanks for a bounty of people,
For children who are our
their
second
second parenting. And though they grow like weeds and the wind too often blows them away, may they forgive us our cultivation and remember fondly where their roots are. Let us give thanks for generous friends with hearts as big as Hubbard squash and smiles as bright as their blossoms. For feisty friends, as tart as apples. For continuous friends who, like scallions and cucumbers, keep reminding us that we've had them. For crotchety friends, as sour as rhubarb and as indestructible. For handsome friends, who are as gorgeous as eggplants and as elegant as a row of corn. And the others, as plain as potatoes and so good for you. For funny friends, who are as silly as Brussels sprouts and as amusing as Jerusalem artichokes. And serious friends, as complex as cauliflowers and as intricate as onions. for friends as unpretentious as cabbages, as subtle as summer squash, as persistent as parsley, as delightful as dill, as endless as zucchini, and who, like parsnips, can be counted on to see you through the winter. For old friends, nodding like sunflowers in the evening time, and young friends who come on as fast as radishes. For loving friends, who wind around us like tendrils and hold us despite our blights, wilts, and witherings. And finally, for those friends now gone, like gardens past that have been harvested, but who fed us in their times that we might have life thereafter. For all these, we give thanks. Our closing hymn this morning, For the Beauty of the Earth.
Go.
Our closing words this morning by my friend and colleague, Erica Hewitt. Sing to the power of the faith within. Sing to the power of our deep love, our strong hope and bright joy. But flex the power of these gifts too. Put your faith and hope to use. Share your joy and love more freely than you thought possible. For together we use these tools to carve out lives of wonder and purpose and service. Go then in peace.
Thank you.
Once again, beloved, worship in this space has come to an end, but our service continues next with an opportunity to share informally with each other in fellowship. May yours be a wondrous and wonderful week. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be surrounded by those you love, and go as you go, with a dream of that love alive in your heart. Amen. And blessed be.
Thank you.